Hello, everyone. Welcome to the July Hangar Talk 2026. Let's go. Thanks, everyone, for joining. Appreciate you being here. And if you're listening to this on recording, hello, hello. We'll record about the first half of this, and then we'll end the recording, and we'll just open it up to open forum Q&A. So before we get into things, just a few housekeeping items. I wanted to mention our annual shareholder event is coming up, which we're super excited about. Let's warm up the chat with this. Anybody here was at the last shareholder event in Cañon City last year? So anybody here on the Hangar Talk call was at the last annual shareholder event? I think Tony Bowers, you were there. I see a couple other names here. It was an absolute blast. TJ, Noel, Mark, got anything you want to add to that? We're super excited about it. It's going to be August 13th and 14th back in Cañon City.
It is such a good time. Please make it out. And it's not a bad drive from Colorado Springs or even Denver. So please join us.
If by any chance somebody has a little airplane that they want to fly in, Florence County Airport is 9 minutes from the hotel and about 7 minutes from the golf course. So I think it's 1 Victor 6. It's Florence County Airport. But Colorado Springs is the easiest. It's less than an hour drive. Denver is also a super easy drive. It's less than 2 hours. Come on down. Cañon City is a super, super cool town. We have 1,300 acres there with the 4 Mile Ranch course, or the 4 Mile Ranch land that we're entitling down there, and the golf course. Congrats to the 4 Mile Ranch investors. Byron actually just bought the course for $750,000, and we'll be seeing a distribution here shortly for that. And we're going to go down and play our course. So the 13th is going to be in the afternoon, 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon. We're going to have our annual shareholder event. So it's going to be upstairs, the annex at Fremont Provisions. Really cool space. It's this historical building. They've got a bar there. So we're going to have drinks. Mark and myself and a few other people from the Turbine team are getting out on stage and give a little bit of a presentation on what's happening at Turbine, what we're looking forward to, and some new initiatives that are coming up, followed by a happy hour, followed by a dinner that's going to be hosted by us. So come on down. It's free to you. All you got to do is book your hotel room at the beautiful St. Cloud Hotel. And we're going to host that dinner. That's on us. And followed by a speakeasy that's in the back of the hotel, which is super fun. Then the next morning, we're playing a golf scramble at our course. We'll play 9 holes, finish up with that. And then we're actually going to head down to the Miticus Living Factory, which we own 24% of. Our investors own 24% of, and we're going to have a good time looking at the progress there. Presentation will absolutely be made after the event. We're going to record all this and we're going to send it out just of the shareholder event, of course. But if you can make it in person, we'd love to see you. All right. Anything else on that? Let's see. Brittany, I know there was a lot of chatter in the chat, but we got the registration link there. That's just to RSVP. Again, it's completely free. We also have a room block at the St. Cloud Hotel. Once you register, you'll see that room block and you can book your hotel.
There was a question in the chat about the presentation be available after the event. Yes, we are planning on actually live streaming it. So if you can't attend live in person, we are going to have the presentation available live, likely in Zoom, similar to this format, so you can enjoy and listen in and send in your questions that way. And then we will always make the replay available at our private podcast as well, too, for you folks.
Fantastic. Thanks, Brittany.
Yeah.
Switching over to some deals, Iron Horse distributions are going out today. We wanted to take a moment to screen share with the status of the wells in the 2025 fund. One of the most important things for investors to know is that we've got a lot of wells that have been completed and have been brought online, but the distributions are working their way through the accounting processes of the EOG and Coda and a lot of these other companies that are drilling the wells. And so those distributions are accruing and will be paid in a lump sum once the accounting is connected, and then it will revert to monthly distributions after that. So I know that the investors have expressed a little bit of concern because the distributions for the last couple of months have been fairly low. That's been representative of only one well in the entire package. So with that, Mark, I don't know if you want to speak a little bit more to that. And Noel, I think you have the latest version. This actually is going to be included in an investor update that's being pushed out later today. So Mark, I don't know if you want to speak a little bit to the Iron Horse portfolio and where we're at there, while simultaneously, maybe Noel, you could share your screen with the wells.
I'll wait just a second until it comes up.
Sounds great.
But in general, I think we've got, by my count, 25 or so wells that are what we'll call completed and accruing. I'll double check that when she pulls that up. But so there's the Fulcrum well at the top, the one that's been paying the bills so far. Those next 3 wells on the same platform are all on the same pad, are all producing right now and accruing. We'll talk about what that means in a minute. And then we bought a bunch of wells in Oklahoma. Yeah, some of them have been on as much as 6 months. They're all producing and accruing, but we haven't, gotten a check on any of those yet. So that's, just part of the process for the Iron Horse team, and will be for our team as well, to get the accounting systems linked up and to get money headed our way. Let's just go down just a little bit. The ones that say DUC mean they're drilled but uncompleted. And so those are all wells that have a line of sight to completion very soon, and they've already been drilled, and bills have already been paid to pay the operator back. And then there's a few more down at the bottom that's also changed since last time, that are also producing and accruing. It's important to understand that what that means is there's going to be, pretty big check that comes our way for each one of those packages when those wells come online, especially in the Oklahoma wells where they've been producing for 5 to 6 months. So they're not just going to pay us the first month of production and cash flow. They'll be catching up for everything that's been accumulated since those wells have come online. So at some point here this month or next, we're expecting to have some pretty big cash flows come in the door. Should be quite a bit higher than what we showed last month. Can't guarantee that, but this is just part of the process to get accounting systems set up and whatnot. I mean, we're experiencing the same thing right now with our wells we're drilling with us in Comstock. We're in the process of getting accounting systems linked, bills paid, notifications set up, and it just takes a little time.
Excellent. Thanks, Mark.
Sure.
So that's the latest updates on Iron Horse. Switching over to Waypoint, while we're on oil and gas. Mark, you want to give a little update on what's going on with Waypoint? By the way, if you haven't made it to an off the record with Mark yet, definitely come to one of those. They're non-recorded because we have some strict NDAs that we're under. We also have some confidential information in those presentations. And so those are non-recorded presentations, but we're doing those every month. So in any case, check those out. But in the meantime, we'll share some less sensitive information on the Waypoint fund right now.
Yeah, so good news in terms of the oil price. It has stabilized somewhat like we were hoping for. It did drop into the high 60s there for a little while, but it's closer to 80 right now. So that's good news. It's not floating around 100 anymore. I think we want it to be stable in the 70s, maybe 80. That'd be a good place for everybody in the industry and for the consumers as well at the pump. Gas is still looking good. It's in the $3 range, predicted to be in the mid 4s during the winter time. So that's all good. That's all above where we underwrote the program at. Deal flow is still really good for us. I think we've seen about $350 million worth of deals so far come through our inbox. A lot of them we had to turn down early on just because we hadn't raised the capital yet. We've also turned some down just because they're too big. We've said we want to stay less than 10% in any one package or any one group of wells. There's quite a few of them that came through at a much higher percentage. And as we move on, we're starting to partner with some other groups that may be able to take those with us now that we've got some money, but we had to turn down a good bit. Also turned down a few deals, one of them in the Eagle Ford, one of them up in the Marcellus, that just were barely economic. They're good wells, but they didn't leave us a lot of room to pay extra to get into them. But we do have 13 separate packages right now. 12 that we've bid on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those, in addition to the BPX set of wells, which I'll talk about in a minute. We've won an additional 5. And so that's good news for us. One of them's in the Delaware Basin, which is a really hot area of New Mexico, just outside the Permian Basin. If you were in the Bakken, and one's in the DJ Basin up in the Weld County, Colorado. So we're real excited about that. We've got 4 more packages that we've submitted bids on. I heard today that we didn't win one of them in the Bakken, and I've got a few more that we're waiting to hear on. So that's all, good news. If we win the rest of those, we'll have most of our existing capital committed for the time being, but that's a good problem to have. We've also moved forward on the second Haynesville group of wells that we participated with somebody else on. And just to remind everybody, that's a group of currently producing wells that we bid on that they're going to recomplete later this year. So we're expecting those to be really good economically. We got in on that pretty early and didn't have to pay much to get into that. So just in general, we're excited. There's a lot going on, a lot of deals coming through. And, if we win the additional 3 or 4 that we haven't heard back on, we'll have spent most of our outstanding capital. So that's good. And we're ready to raise some more, and got more deals came in this week. So good news.
Continue expanding the portfolio.
You bet.
Excellent. Do you want to just touch base again, if anybody hasn't tracked on this, the first 3 wells that we won with Comstock? Because those
Yeah,
are
sure.
fantastic natural gas wells.
Yeah, so one of the first packages that came our way once we, kind of gotten everybody's mailing list was something that came from BP. Their subsidiary is BPX here in the United States, and they decided not to participate in some wells, and they're being drilled by Comstock, which is Jerry Jones' company of the Dallas Cowboys. So that he owns, pretty substantial position of the Haynesville play, which is one of the best areas in the country, especially if you believe in natural gas with its proximity to the Gulf Coast and all the LNG facilities. But anyway, we won the bid on those 3 wells. It's pretty big chunk too of the wells. I think 6% is what we won. They're expensive wells. They're 12, $13 million wells. And the first 3 wells have almost been finished drilling. I think number 2 and 3 are drilling or finished drilling, and number 1 is just about done. So within, I think, a week or so, those first 3 wells will have been drilled, and they'll be in that drilled and uncompleted status. We expect a completion rig to come in maybe in a month or so. And so if all goes well, those wells should be on production and at least accruing by the end of the year. And hopefully we'll get those in a paying status soon after that. We've got our accounting group already on it, already contacting them, making sure that we're set up and have the right communication channels. So that's going well. And then the second
Excellent.
group was the Haynesville group that I mentioned a minute ago, the refracts.
Thanks, Mark. Obviously, we'll have a lot of information on the current status of the Waypoint portfolio during our shareholder event next month. And there are 2 weeks left to capture the 6% share price discount. That's going to expire at the end of July. It drops down to a 4% for the preceding 2 months after that, or the subsequent 2 months after that, I should say. Good question for Matt. Any indicators as to whether we're tracking towards the base case, upside or downside case on Iron Horse? We can certainly speak to the commodity price environment, which has been significantly above our underwritten commodity prices for Iron Horse. So really, there's 2 levers that are going to bend a fund up or down from its original underwriting. And the first lever is going to be commodity prices. And the second lever is going to be production. Commodity prices have been way above what we underwrote on the Iron Horse portfolio. So that's looking really good. Mark, do you want to speak at all to the production levels that we've seen off the first couple of wells? Obviously, this is not indicative necessarily of the entire portfolio. There will likely be some wells that outperform and underperform. And that's why we like this strategy of putting as many wells as possible, exposure to as many wells as possible into the fund. But Mark, what are you seeing in terms of production on Iron Horse so far?
So yeah, thanks for the question. And we've really only got 1 well producing right now, and it's been producing flat. So it's very hard to judge, how that well even alone is gonna work until it starts to decline. I'm not sure if I think they've been holding it back a little bit, is what it looks like to me, to try and figure out they have all the right equipment on location. You got to remember, these wells, a lot of them produce a lot of water, so they have downhole pumps, and then they've got a surface, pumping unit. You've probably seen those if you've ever flown over or driven anywhere in West Texas. Those have to be designed based on what, how much oil and gas and water comes out of the ground also. So the first couple of months of any well are really, it's hard to figure out what's going on. You need about 5 or 6 months of production on any one well to know. After that, it's pretty easy to decide whether it's above or below projections. But at least in the case of the 1 well that's come on, that rate that it came on at is higher than we had projected. So that's very good news. But until we get 5 or 6 months production on a majority of the wells with high interest, we won't be able to answer that question. But I think, the commodity prices, are as big of a driver as the reserves are. So from that standpoint, I would guess to say that we're above projection.
We're also going to be doing some work this week to put together some better pro formas. And yeah, I can't promise that in any specific timeline, but we're going to be working with the accounting group on that side to try and sort of reproject out what we can expect from now through the end of the year on Iron Horse. Again, when we are still connecting up the accounting systems and those accruals are working their way through the various accounting systems of these different companies. Some of these companies you can get on the phone very easily, some you can't. So we're working as hard as we can to sort of reform a 2026 pro forma for everyone. We will remind everyone, of course, though, that we didn't open Iron Horse until very late last year. We launched in October. We raised through October, November, December, and so we're not even a year in on that fund. But things are off to a very, very good start. we're super excited, as well as with Waypoint. Sean was asking how much was raised in the initial Waypoint round, just shy of 10 million. And we're shooting for a $25 to $50 million fund by the end of the year. We're looking at some various institutional channels as well that might fire up in late Q3, early Q4. So we're definitely on track for that $25 million fund, which is really what we wanted. And then our stretch goal was 50 million. So we're right in the ballpark. I had a question for Mark. So Mark, you just said that only one well is producing. Is that different than completed and accruing?
So completed and accruing is the same thing as producing. I should have reworded that. We have one well that's paying, it's producing, but the connections are all made to where we're getting checks in the mail.
Yeah, perfect.
That's more of an accounting status than producing status.
So completed and accruing, or producing and accruing, all means the same thing. If there's production online, we own our percentage share of it, and it's just it's unfortunately a waiting game while we get all the accounting systems connected up and we start actually getting paid on it.
We'll keep the pressure on Iron Horse, by the way. We call them all the time and ask them what's going on, and we're making sure they're communicating with us and getting us the information we need.
Follow-up question, can we measure well flow on all the completed wells?
As soon as they're all online, yes.
Excellent.
As soon as I get a few months of production on each well, I'll have a very good idea whether, where it fit based on, where I originally thought it was going to be. And next time we have the off the record, I like to go through one of those. I've done so at each one of the meetings we've had so far, where I go and take a look at, show you a package that I've got and show you how I come up with my numbers. And so it's pretty easy to, when a well comes online, to measure it against the type well or type curve that I came up with to do the economics.
And again, off the record, non-recorded, kind of a look behind the curtain on Mark's processes. We're going to host one of those every month. Great link that Brittany just put in the chat here is the Turbine Capital calendar. So this is a calendar subscription that you can add to your mobile device, and it'll just add all of our, our Hangar Talks, our webinars, our off the records, our shareholder, in-person things straight to your calendar. So you don't actually even have to register for a Hangar Talk. You could just click on the event and it takes you right to the Zoom meeting. Super convenient. And of course, you can toggle that on and off if you want to declutter your display and not see it. You can select calendars and deselect the Turbine Capital calendar. But it's a super convenient option that we have for everybody that wants to just kind of keep their ear to the ground on what we have going on. With that, I'm going to kind of switch gears here to Secured Income Fund. Got great news. The first distribution for the Secured Income Fund is going out today. The Secured Income Fund we only had $5 million worth of allocation for this, and we soft committed about 8 in 36 hours for this fund. This is kind of a 18-month super CD where folks were coming in, and it's a collateralized portfolio where it's pref equity and it's paying investors 15%. So investors are getting 1.25% on their capital as of today. Those distributions will be pushed out later today. So congrats to all the Secured Income Fund investors on that. Let's see, what's next? I think we want to kind of shift gears into what's on the horizon. So John, I don't know if we can kind of go back and forth a little bit on what we have on the horizon. What do you got?
Yeah. Thanks, Tait, and good to see everybody on here today. Appreciate you guys joining. So we've been hearing from you guys of what everybody wants to invest in. We know there's a wide spectrum of the amount of risk that people want to do and the vehicle that they want to invest with, whether it's cash, self-directed IRA. So we're trying to find stuff that really can fit everybody. And obviously, each investment's going to be a little bit different for each investor. So, looking on the risk spectrum, you did talk about the Secured Income Fund, and we also have the private credit fund. So another, lower risk, and we're going to keep that one going for those type of investors. We are looking at multifamily. There's been a lot of interest there. We had our last mobile home investment with Sunrise.
Is that my internet or John's?
It's John's.
Okay.
Oh, no. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit. That's all right.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay.
You're back.
All right. So on the multifamily front, it's been very challenging to find deals that pencil. And,
yep.
It's really been just a challenging year for multifamily in general. With interest rates staying higher, there's still been a lot of apartments that were being built. We've we found we really like the market down in the Phoenix Tempe area. And those of you who invested in the Azara Tempe deal know that we looked at quite a few deals down there, and we are looking at some additional ones right now. And we're hoping to get something cooking on that in the near future. Phoenix and Tempe is definitely a tough spot to find deals as well with overbuilding, but we're going to see what we can find there.
Thanks, John. I can also speak to the fact that we're looking at some multifamily in the Midwest. We're also looking at some additional senior living. I am just crazy about the senior living space. The 80-plus-year-old segment of the United States population will be the fastest growing segment of the United States over the next decade. And we are at 15-year lows on construction starts. And when you look at, okay, do we want to reposition existing assets or buy existing assets, or do we want to build them from scratch? Baby boomers control 51% of the wealth in America. There's a lot of money to be spent on quality senior housing. And just like, we talked about this during the podcast that I did with John LaHood, that baby boomers have redefined every category that they've ever touched through their entire lives. They redefined music, they redefined art, they redefined they bought the internet. And, when it comes to where do seniors want to retire, there's an entire segment of the higher end of the senior housing space that has yet to be really developed. And so we're excited to be teamed up with the BLDG and fellowship group. And we do have another project lined up actually in Georgia later this year that we're going to be obviously conducting a significant amount of due diligence on over the next few months, but it's looking good. And we'd like to do another building deal with them. So anyway, that's kind of what we have on the horizon for right now. Obviously, Waypoint will be open throughout the end of the year, and that portfolio is going to continue to mature as the year goes on. And Tony, you're in luck. More Skunkworks deals. We do have some stuff in the pipeline. Stealth Point Fund 2 is coming. I will be in San Francisco in a week from now, meeting with the entire Stealth Point team, including Michael Shepard, and looking at Stealth Point Fund 2. While we're talking about Stealth Point, Ramona is looking really good. And so those of you who invested in the Ramona sidecar earlier in the year, for anybody that doesn't know what we're talking about, Stealth Point was a VC fund that we did last year. And for those investors who were in Stealth Point, there was a follow-on investment that was offered earlier this year to sort of double down on one of the 8 portfolio companies that was looking really promising. And it looks like that's going to go really well. So more to share on that soon. So that's kind of what's around the bend, so to speak. Looking super forward to the shareholder event in August. It's less than a month out. What else do we got, Brittany? What am I missing?
On that note, I think just a common question that we've been getting is, bolt-on investments. I have SDIRA funds that I'm looking to leverage. Some of the deals that Tait and John had just mentioned are ideal for SDIRA funds. So know that we hear you. We know those funds are waiting to be deployed, and you're looking for opportunities to deploy them. So we are definitely doing due diligence on various deals that could be great candidates for that. So keep an eye out for that. If you have any questions, you're always welcome to email the team, investors@turbinecap.com. If you have questions around SDIRA, Noelle is a fantastic resource. She definitely has her pulse on all the different custodians and what they need. So if you ever have questions around your SDIRA, you're looking for an SDIRA that you'd like to work with, some of our recommendations, Noelle would be a great resource to reach out to. And that's Noelle@turbinecap.com as well.
Thank you, Brittany.